Welcome to Blueprints for Brilliance Coaching Insights, a podcast by coaches for coaches. Our guests share their hard-won wisdom to help you grow your coaching business and create a life of success. So get ready to unlock the blueprints to your success.
Hi, and welcome to the show. I'm excited to talk to Sandra. She's a certified master life coach, consultant, and Amazon #1 bestselling author with over 30 years of experience helping corporations, families, and teens overcome challenges and create meaningful growth. So welcome to the show, Sandra.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
So tell us a little bit about how you became a life coach. What was your journey from where you started out to where you are now?
It goes back to childhood, right? So having parents who were not necessarily tuned in, had the best of intentions, but the methods that they used to implement what they thought was in our best interest was not the best. And as I came up, I found that I had control, rebellion, anger issues, just a number of those things that developed as, I like to say that it's my protection mechanism. It's like a turtle that goes inside their shell. That's anger to a lot of people. And as coaches, we want to recognize, or even as parents, as bosses, we want to recognize when somebody's giving you attitude, it's not you. Is the fact that they feel unsafe in that environment. So I didn't know that. I was led to believe that I was broken because I was angry or something was wrong with me, right? And we kind of demonized the emotions. And it took a long time for me to be able to embrace those emotions because that mentality disconnects your head from your heart. So we go through life logical thinking, what should I do versus what's in my heart? And we must be able to keep those two parts of us connected. So we embrace our emotions. Nothing wrong with being angry, but how do you express that anger? That's what we need to do for ourselves. And that's what we need to kind of coach others. So we need to make sure that we're not taking it personally, like most bosses and parents and friends. Everybody takes it like you just assaulted me and judged me. And we're going to come out, tension for tension and stress for stress. And I like to call it the red brain. So it's like the red brain is never going to have a positive outcome.
How you verbalized that and said people feel unsafe. And that's so true, but they don't recognize it. And then Connecting head to heart. That's a hard one. I think, again, I don't think people realize a lot of times this is going on in your head and you're battling something that sometimes doesn't have anything to do with the person in front of you.
Nothing. Most of the time it has nothing. They are just kind of like the trigger, the canvas. What's going on in our world outside is just an exhibition of what's going on inside. So if we find that we go repeatedly date the same person or go to the same job or in the same circumstances, it's because we haven't dealt with the emotional part of us that keeps drawing us into that because the system wants resolution. So we want to make sure that we're not constantly blaming the person or those people. Take it as a reflection. Well, what am I doing that I consistently go around this mulberry bush? And I need to find my way out within me. And then it will automatically change because those same jobs will no longer attract you. Those people will no longer, it will just automatically settle. But a lot of times we're fighting the wave or we're fighting the person and we spend our life there, right? We kind of expand our lives in that space and we never achieve the joy and the peace and the happiness or the level of impact and accomplishment that we have within us. That's what I teach kids all the time. Whenever they have those confrontations, you say, were you trying to hurt my feelings or did you mean it that way? Or could you repeat that? Because I thought I heard you say this, but you couldn't have said that because that would have been mean. So can you repeat what you said? Because I jumped to an assumption and I want to make sure I'm not judging you, right? Or some kind of way, because I grew up very sarcastic. So I can come up with a lot of those. And then the person is kind of stumped. And 90% of the time, they're going to just never mind or no, they're going to backpedal, right? Very few people are going to be able to push forward. And there's always a response. But when you know who you are, why are you fighting people who don't know you? Because we're fighting for you to see me and respect me and give me whatever I feel I need. But if I know who I am, you don't know me. So if you're looking at me, judging me, you're actually just reflecting to me what's inside your head, your insecurities and your weaknesses. That's all. And we need to know as individuals, that's all that's happening. It doesn't matter what happens. The person is reflecting their shortcomings and their insecurities. You stop fighting the battle within them. You just manage yourself in the situation, right?
Yep, I love that. And now that you said that, that's exactly what the recommendation was. The first thing was repeat back to them what they just said. Because I think sometimes we don't think about how that lands.
Exactly. Or now they know, well, I won't be so quick to, now they're training their brain to not, because when I grew up angry, I was from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, right? It didn't connect. I just saw red and I was going to come out. However, and then I'll back say, well, I didn't mean to say that, but now pride's going to make you stand, right? It's going to make you still, because I'm not going to show any weakness because I was so broken my entire life. When I become a point of an adult, nobody's going to break me. Nobody's going to say anything to me like that again. Nobody's going to get that room or that space. And that's what we're seeing in the world. It's just that child who was broken, not seen, whatever they went through, now they get to a point where they feel they have some power. They're going to exhibit that power any way they see born because they've never had the ability to feel like anything in their life was in control. Right.
That's fantastic. So tell me a little bit, do you work with mostly children? Do you work with mostly adults? Do you work with a variety of people?
All of the above. So as coming up as a child who was not seeing value to things like parents just didn't get me, I'm on a mission to make that connection. Because a lot of times, especially in adolescence, we kind of off the cuff, oh, that's just how teens are. Or they just slam doors and say they hate you. They just only want to be in social media. And we kind of dismiss and kind of outsource through the teen years our connection with our kids. And that's the primary time that you're going to make it or break it. Because when that child hits 20, your ability to make that, keep that connection for life, pretty much done. You're going to have to be deliberate in building that in their 20s. But most of the time when they get to 20s, they either have an overt anger or they have a passive aggressive response. But trust, they did not ignore the fact of how they were treated through those years, whether they spoke about it or they didn't. It's going to show up in their adulthood. It's going to show up in how they engage with you, how they show up on the job. It's going to show up in how they do relationships, how they engage the world is going to be a reflection of those years. So we want to make sure that that connection is there. So I help with like the communication, the misunderstanding, conflict resolution, just kind of translating, because when the child says this, the parent is this. And when the parent says this, the child hears this. So I can help say, well, that's not what they meant. And did you understand this? And now there's the meeting of the minds, because it's not a lack of love. It's a lack of understanding. The communication is just not gelling. So I like to work with kids and parents together or separately. But also I like to work with organizations, because organizations now have those kids, right? Or those parents or those that are now in the workforce, and they're still playing out those emotions. So they don't have the emotional intelligence to go on the boss. Now the boss is their parent. Now the boss is talking to me. Like I said, my parent would never speak to me. So now I'm going to stand up against the boss or the system or the whatever. And we start being passive aggressive or overt, right? The same way we did it. It just looks a little different, but it's basically the same essence. So now we're on the job and always studying. I love the stats. So they say that turnover is costing American businesses, and I think it may be small businesses, but businesses, $1 trillion a year. Trillion. So when we're running our businesses on any level, if we are not emotionally aware of ourselves and how we're managing and how we're engaging and how our being able to identify that within our team, we just think, oh, head for head. So turnover, this person, fire them, they quit, and I just hire somebody else. But every single time you hire someone new, it costs you 50% of their base salary up to 200% of their base salary. 50 to 200% of their base salary. The end-to-end cost of replacing that, because you're talking, it impacts productivity. It impacts not just theirs for the time that they were there before they left, but every single person that's exposed to them is impacted, right? So the entire team is impacted, whether the team remains, the rest of the team remains or not. You're impacted because now you're putting out energy. And if we're quantifying it, it's a huge cost. And most people are just so unaware. They just think it's head for head, right? And now you have an atmosphere where, you know, my turnover is X rate. Do you know how much money you just wasted? Instead of investing that money in emotional development of yourself and your team, they said it's a 4-to-1 investment ratio. So when you invest in hiring a coach or a coach to come into your company, you get $4 return for every dollar you spend.
Wow. We place virtual assistants with our clients, but we also a lot of times end up helping them understand how to communicate. So especially because we're talking about different countries, they're from the Philippines. So we teach them cultural differences. For some people, it's their first hire. And so it's a matter of understanding when to kind of nip things in the bud and not so horrible that everybody's unhappy. But I totally get those stats.
And even if it's not breaking your business, you're leaking money, right? Because they say disgruntled employees, instead of fully engaged, you have a 60% error rate. 60% error rate. What is that costing you? So if we're looking at all of these, costs that they're able to qualify, these are not just numbers out the sky. These are Gallup polls and everybody, the big boys and everybody doing these stats. This is no small thing. And how much money could you make, right? How much more could hit your bottom line? How much could your company grow? You don't need more employees necessarily. You just need to invest in the quality of the employees you have, right?
And I mean, how much more productive are people when they're happy, exactly. When they feel appreciated and supported and totally.
They show up work more often. They're more engaged. They're more focused, right? They have purpose. They're driven to accomplish certain goals and milestones. That's just a huge thing. So that's the other part of what I do. So I like to get it from child to business and kind of help them at all the different junctures, because that's just in my blood. I just love to see the light bulbs and see that, I'm a measurements person. So I like to see that you can see, oh, I used to, but now, or I didn't think, but wow, kind of results. Yeah.
And I love that you're doing this. I love that there are people out there, because I feel like the generations gone by, as far as parenting children, it was very different. They were just taught differently. Children shall be seen and not heard, kind of thing. And so, that's what they were taught. They didn't know.
They didn't know.
Dr. Spock can only teach us so much.
Exactly. And we're parenting the way that we were parented, right? We just carry the script forward. But now we've hit a drop off where this generation, the Gen Zs, it's a completely different language, completely different way, different they need. And now we have so much more, which is good, of the mental health space, right? We're now aware, instead of just saying, we'll just suck it up, or something's wrong with you, or we just kind of brush it up because we don't know how. But now there's such an awareness that this is something that is real and tangible, and we want to be able to engage them in that space. But as they're going into, I was reading something earlier today that said that employers are resisting hiring Gen Zs. They don't want them. Now, how are we going to have a whole generation of people graduating from college that the majority of business owners refuse to hire because they say they're fickle? They don't know, why am I going to train you and in a year or two you're gone, right? That you need a lot of time and attention and investment in your emotions, and like how they want to manage them. They were just they had a laundry list of reasons why not. So how are we going to do with our Gen Zs if we don't arm them in how to go into the workplace, but also arm the employers and the managers on how to manage the Gen Zs? How is your organization going to exist? Right? Are you going to jump over Gen Zs and wait for the next generation and hope they're better? Right? Like at some point, we're going to run out of people. Do you want your company to exist beyond you? Right? Then we're going to need to kind of have a meeting of the minds and not just throw out the baby with the bathwater, as they say. Yes, there are challenges, but that could also bring a whole level of creativity and new inventions and new processes and new things that you never thought of. So yes, they may be different, but different isn't bad. Different expands us, and it expands our business, expands the world. It just makes it so much more beautiful, right?
I love that. Yeah, absolutely. Creativity is, because you're so right. Businesses, how they run, what they do, are so different now than they were even 5 years ago. So we have to be able to evolve and learn how to manage and how to work with all kinds of people and
all ages. They said that I think it was 80 something percent, 87, 84% of people that have left a job left because of their management. Not because they didn't like the job, not because they couldn't do the job, but because managers didn't know how to manage them. Didn't know how, like it was just a oil and water type of situation, right? So just because you have a title of a manager, a lot of times if I'm insecure and I didn't do my emotional work and now I have the manager title, oh, now I'm bossing everybody around, right? Now I'm going to wear that because now's my opportunity to be a boss because I had no power in my childhood. I was disempowered. So now I need to exert that power. As humans, everyone needs to have some level of influence. But if it's not guided correctly, now I'm going to mismanage my kids, my job, employees, the person at the supermarket. I'm always trying to exert some level of power, and it's not doing me any good. It's not getting me the desired results, because ultimately, even if everybody kind of stayed on the job and never quit, that hole in me, it will never be filled. That will never be filled until I do my work. And once I do my work, it doesn't matter what's going on the outside. Now I'm a different version and I'm the best version, and we are always evolving, right? So it's never that we get to a point and now I'm perfect. We're always evolving. But if we get stuck in that loop that everyone must show me respect because of my title or whatever, that's a sad way to be. And it's a very small world that you've painted yourself into.
Yeah, right? It's very egocentric, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about a client that you worked with. So kind of where they were when they came to you, whether it's a young person or a management person, and then kind of how you worked with them and helped them through to get where they wanted to be.
There, one comes to mind because I teach online adolescents. I like my age online is generally 15, 16, but I do up to 18. And I had taught, I guess the person's cousin, or I think it was a cousin, had been in one of my classes, and the parent had saw such amazing results on how this child managed their time and did all these things differently. They spoke about me, was speaking about me on a regular basis. And another family member heard and says, oh, I need her to help me with my son, who's first year of college, who's getting a 2 point something. And if he doesn't pull it up, I'm pulling him, right? And actually going to college in Richmond.
Okay.
They called me and said, okay, I want you to work with my son, and la, 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 la. So met him and we worked together. I think it was from summer until the fall. And just a lot of times especially going away to school, it's a party time. Like you don't know what to do. You don't really know how to do the boundaries, so many different things. So he was hanging out. He actually lived in a house with 4 other guys. So, everybody was like hanging out. They weren't really studying. They weren't really doing measurements. They weren't really doing all the things, simple things. So in working with him, we talked through like emotional challenges. Why are you pushing back? Why are you rebelling? Like being able to identify those and then put a strategy in place for school. So I says, okay, what's your goal? One of the goals was to get to 3.8 by the end of the school year. Okay. We got him to a 3.9 within like 5 months.
That's amazing.
5 months.
That is hard work.
His mom came to me and said, I have no words. I said, but number one, kids are not going to hear it from their parents. Number one, right? And we just have to be okay with that because even my child was more talking to my sister or someone else, didn't come to me with other things. And we've got to not take that as an ego thing, right? Be thankful that there's someone else your child can talk to when they're going through those phases, right? So he was able to get, because when I put him on the plan, the whole house was on a plan. So now we had 2 or 3 bathrooms, I think 2 or 3 bathrooms in the house. I said, so whoever's in these bedrooms, this is your bathroom. You don't use any other bathroom. And you clean the bathroom this week and you clean the bathroom that week. And food prep happens on a Sunday and you buy the food and you prep the food. And like the whole house was just, like I said, so when you're trying to study, others will just come into the room. They're not thinking. The door's closed, I'm studying. I said, so you do not study in your house. You go to the library and find a corner and you study there. You don't try to study when anybody else is around or there's the possibility of them coming into your space. Because that's a big thing I see with parents setting all the kids down at a table because we want to watch them, right? Unless they're doing something on their devices, but they cannot focus well when other people are around. And this is just how the brain functions. It needs to be able to focus on one thing. It cannot focus on 2 things. So when they're there and the dog's in the lap, they're trying to focus on 2 things. The fact that they notice you in the kitchen cooking something, they're trying to focus on 2 things. And now their level just decreased. So now we, with the best of intentions, want this, but we, by what we've required, we've mandated them here because this is the best their brain can do under the circumstances we may have put. So I always say to parents and I say to kids, well, they won't let me go to my room by myself. I said, because you're proven you're not trustworthy up to this point. I said, so if we're going to have this conversation, you have to own it. Because you're not going to get 2, 3, 4 times to be messing around in your room. And then your parents going to say, okay, I'll know. I said, you want to own this? Yes. So, okay, we're going to have the conversation. You're going to go in your room. Your room's going to be clean. Your desk is orderly. You're going to have this time. You're going to time yourself. You're going to do the schedule like this. No issues. So many parents sending me pictures of 10-year-olds with their plan. 15-year-olds that were non-communicative that would come to them, would just shut up, come in this house, wouldn't say a word. Now he comes from right after our class. Mom, this is what I'm going to do with my life. And this is what I want. And this is what I'm going to do. And she was just like, who is this person that is in my house talking to me right now that has been non-communicative for how long? They just want to be seen and they want to be heard and they want to know that you'll respect. They don't have to be right. It's not about being right all the time. It's about being loving, right? And even when you as a boss or a parent say, okay, you're going to do that. I did that. Didn't end well. But if there's no harm in them doing that, if it just means they'll take longer, let them learn the lesson themselves. Because a lot of times we want to circumvent, but if it's nothing harmful, then okay, you think you can study with the TV on? Okay, work that out. Oh, Mom, it's not sticking well because you're sitting there with the TV on, right? So you're willing to try this now? Okay. But if you always say, nope, they're controlled and their brain doesn't get to decide good and bad, make decisions, that part of their brain is still developing till like mid-20s. If we never give them the opportunity to kind of drop the ball, to kind of feel the pain of the situation that they're put in play, their brain is never going to be able to do that. And now we put them into the workforce, expecting them to be able to make good decisions and self-regulate, but we made every decision for them. So how are they going to go into a world under a boss that says, okay, I need you to do X, Y, Z, but that's not their job to micromanage them or make the decisions or give them their plan for every day and then check the boxes. They're not going to suddenly hit 20, 19, and now their brain's going to function in that way. So we must at 10 and 12 and 14, give them the option to drop. If it's not going to do them any serious, let them drop. Let them fail that class. Let them see the consequences and play it out. Oh, well, that wasn't good. So I'm not doing that again. Now they have some memory that says, okay, now I can better do life. But a lot of times we're not allowing their brain to kind of fire and wire in a way that's going to lead them to be those employees or those bosses that are going to be successful.
Sandra, right? You are so wise. This is amazing. Oh, you're doing such great things. So, what's one tip that you could give our audience? So let's say it's either a parent who's struggling with a kid, where do they start?
If it's a parent struggling with a kid, then I always say one of the first things we need to do is, as a parent, understand your child's love language. So that if they haven't heard about that already, that's online, just Google love language, find out. And I do believe they have a teen version. So anybody in any relationship, you need to know the love language of the person you're in relationship with, whether it's your sister, your brother, your mother, your kid, your, whoever. Because if you want that relationship to be strong and build in, you must understand, because a lot of times we're loving them according to our language. So a lot of times it's like, but I give them everything, I buy them stuff, but their language is quality time. So you could buy them every expensive gift in the world, but you're not taking the time to spend with them. It's like you didn't do anything. And now you're upset because look at all this money, look at the sneakers, look at the trips, look at the things I've given them. It's like they don't appreciate it. No, it doesn't hit It's like a lock and key. You don't have the right key for the lock. So understand, go online, make it a fun thing, not a, okay, we're going to figure this out. Make it something fun. Okay, I'm curious to see. I, as your parent, really want to know who you are. And I know that I've been seeing you through my lens, according to my language, but we can see that's not kind of working, right? I would say, do your humor. I can see that's not really working, right? So I want to really understand you. So there's this fun quiz online. I want to do it so you can understand me. I want you to do it so I can understand you. And now when we've sat there and said, okay, these are the results. So mom's language is acts of service. So now you understand when I'm upset that you didn't do the dishes or I had to sweep up after you again, that in my translation is you're not showing me love. But instead of you thinking I'm just nagging, now you understand the connection, right? And now everybody in the household can say, okay, now I'm going to be more deliberate in not leaving dishes in the sink or not whatever. Or maybe that's not it. Maybe it's quality time, right? So we've been cleaning the place spick and span, but nobody wants to spend any time together. But our love language is that, okay, now we're going to schedule every week. We're going to do Sunday dinners. We're going to go this on hiking. We're going to, once a week, we're going to schedule something, no holds barred, no exceptions. We're going to make sure that we're going to schedule time together, right? It's love, acts of words of affirmation. So now you see your kid, which we should be doing anyway, no matter what the language is. Wow, you did a 75 on that test? Oh, mom, I didn't do well. Yeah, what do you mean you didn't do well? Kudos. I got a 69 on my first math test. You want to be able to let them see that you're not flawless, right? Or even if you got hundreds across the board, you don't need to mention that, right? At that moment. But you could say, let's celebrate that. I saw you studying and you put in the effort. You actually turned off the TV a couple times and you studied. No, we're going to discount that. We're going to celebrate that. High five, however you celebrate it. I said, what do you think you would like? What do you think could have made it a little pulled it to 80? Well, I didn't understand the concepts. What do you need for me to help you understand the concepts? Would doing videos, because YouTube has a ton of videos. Do you want to tutor? Do you want to take a class? Would you like me to sit? Well, I don't understand. I am not smarter than a fifth grader right now. So I don't know that math, but am I willing to kind of relearn it so we can do it together? Or am I going to hire someone? Or what do I need to do to support you in this? Right? So we need to first understand what's their language. Once we have those conversations, now there's a better understanding, right? So now when the child is sitting there having a bad day, their love language is quality time. Okay, let's go take a walk. You want to go ride your bikes together? Let's go shoot some hoops. Whatever it is, now you know how to respond. And now you're making that connection, right?
I love that. Okay. Sandra, you have given us so much value today and so much optimism, I feel like. So tell our listeners if they want to reach out to you because they're saying, Sandra, you're speaking my language. I know you can help me. How should they reach out to you?
Well, if you're on LinkedIn, I'm on LinkedIn. If you're, I guess the easiest way would be just to email me, right? Because then I know I'm going to see that because a lot of times on social media, it may get lost in the mix, depends on, time frame, but you could just email me, Sandra, Sandra at sandrafosterconsulting.com would be the quickest way, or you can go to the website and connect with me through there would be the quickest way, right?
Okay, last question for you. If you could provide one tip to the world to make it a better place, what would that be?
Everybody do their emotional intelligence work. Everybody do their work because we can sit there pointing fingers at everybody else or talking down to ourselves because we are our own biggest critic, right? But that you have compassion on yourself and understand whether it's parenting, whether it's a boss, whether you can look and say, oh, I made some mistakes. All of us have. But what are you going to do now? So whether it's reading a book, watching some videos, find somebody on YouTube, find somebody on one of the social medias that you follow them, they have nuggets, they have quotes, read a book, do something consistently to raise your emotional intelligence because that's going to make you happier. And when you're your best version, now you're engaging everybody from a more positive space.
I love that. Sandra, you've been amazing. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's wonderful being here. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us today on Blueprints for Brilliance Coaching Insights. We hope you're leaving this episode with inspiration to take your coaching business and your life to the next level. If you found value in this episode, we would love it if you would subscribe and share it with someone else who you think might benefit from hearing it. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next episode.